What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Man, let me tell you, I was supposed to have the show on Wednesday. Internet issues, the wind here in Illinois was crazy. Couldn't do the show, but man, I am so excited that I'm actually able to do this show tonight after what was a phenomenal Thursday night football matchup between our Detroit Lions and against that team in Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers. We have so much to unpack. I'm still here just super excited about what happened last night. My entire mindset has shifted with what this team is capable of doing. I can't wait to dig further into that. This show will be mainly all about the Lions. We're going to touch a little bit at the end about the Red Wings, unfortunately. We'll also be touching on the Michigan Wolverines as well. Just an end of season recap with the football team, and then a little bit about basketball. But today it's going to be Lions dominant, talk of the town. I don't want it any other way. Stay tuned. Again, you're watching Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, guys, welcome back to Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, my name is Christian Harvey. This is Gritsville, USA. Super excited to be talking mainly Lions today with y'all. But hey, do us a favor, do yourself a favor. Make sure to give us a follow on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Follow us on iesportsradio.com, and you'll be able to find my show and a bunch of other great shows on that site as well. And you're able to find us on anywhere you can find your podcast, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Again, wherever you may find a podcast, we'll be there. Now, again, talk of the town, Detroit. What a game. It was, truth be told, and I know I talked about this last week on Black Friday, that with the defensive injuries that were coming, or that we had, I had chalked this game up to potentially be a loss. I know at the beginning of the week, Coach Campbell came out and he said that, basically said that Taylor Decker was out. He was like, oh yeah, Pascal's going to be out, Onzurike's probably going to be out, and then he brought up DJ Reader. And when he brought up DJ Reader being out, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, this game probably will not go well. But that was not what happened. Your Detroit Lions ended up beating Green Bay with a score of 34-31. For those who didn't watch the game, which I'm sure that's none of you, I'm still going to go over just some key points during the game, what I thought was important, some stats basically. Let's get right to it. Jared Goff, pretty solid game with the exception of one interception. It's a pretty bad interception, but he still went 32 for 41 for 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then that one pretty terrible interception. David Montgomery got his weekly touchdown in, basically. He went 14 for 51 rushing, 5 for 43 receiving, and then he had the most critical run of the season so far with that fourth and inches at the end there with that 7-yard rush. We'll be going more into that later on. Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought for him, it was a pretty quiet game. I was texting a friend saying, like, I don't think Gibbs has it tonight, and which is fine. You know, I'm not expecting these players week in and week out to outperform, but even then, no knock on Jahmyr Gibbs whatsoever. He still finished 15 for 43. He did have a receiving touchdown, nice wheel route right into the end zone, perfect play, and then finished 6 for 30 receiving. My player of the game, though, Tim Patrick, and let me tell you, touch base on this in the first ever episode. I was born in Colorado, grew up a bit around in the area. The Denver Broncos were my first team, and even now I still like to keep up with them every now and then because they're my second team. So I was pretty familiar with Tim Patrick when he was with the Denver Broncos. Was devastated for him when he had that injury that took him out the 2022 season. He was going to come back, and then I believe he tore his Achilles in the 2023 season and knocked him out another year. So when he came back in the preseason initially for Denver, he was playing lights out, but it was clear that Denver was ready to move on. I was hell-bent wanting Detroit to pick this man up. Super glad that we did. Tim Patrick finished 6 for 43 and then 2 touchdowns last night. I'm pretty sure all of you saw his post-game interview, just very heartfelt. You could see how much this game meant to him. I know that today he said that it was his late father's birthday, and he said that he knew that his dad helped him with last night. And I'm super, super happy for him. There was nobody more deserving than him having that happen to him. Amon-Ra, pretty quiet game. He went 5 for 43, but he had that massive 16-yard reception at the end there on a 2nd and 17. That game probably wouldn't finish the way that it did if it wasn't for that. And that's what I love about Amon-Ra. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase, where the ball has to go to him every single time. He is a man that will do any and everything. He will block. He will catch. He will be there in the critical moment, and last night he was. A couple other stats. JMO finished 5 for 80. Some pretty critical catches at the during the game. Same with Sam Laporta, 5 for 54 as well. And then on the flip side with Green Bay, Jordan Love finished with just a little over 200 yards. Passing, Josh Jacobs went off for 3 touchdowns. Only held him to about 60 yards, though, so still a pretty impressive showcase from the defense. And again, I'll be talking about more about the defense in a bit. But the way that the game was going, first half went pretty smooth, 17-7 at halftime. Beginning of the second half was pretty terrible. That was pretty terrible. There's a term that we coin in the Detroit Lion fandom, the turd quarter. It's been pretty common the last 2-3 years, and even before the Campbell Holmes era, where the third quarter is where, so to speak, shit hits the fan. With how the team comes out of halftime and performs. This year it hasn't been that bad, but the way that the second half started yesterday was pretty evident that the game wasn't going to go that well. Luckily, they were able to tie that up rather quickly. Still wasn't good, though, that they allowed Green Bay to march right down the field, especially with a huge pass to Christian Watson for, I think it was about 52 yards. That set up a pretty simple touchdown again to Watson. Took about 1:40 straight out the half for them to score. Then the Goff interception happened, which led to Green Bay immediately scoring again, taking the lead. That point, I was like, again, I didn't panic, and it's funny. It is funny. You could ask my fiance. So the Houston game, again, I talked about this in the first episode where I didn't wear my Brian Branch jersey, my new Brian Branch jersey that she got me for my birthday this year. Was not wearing it the first half of the Houston game. We all know how the first half of the Houston game went. Dug that jersey right off the bottom of the hamper, put it on for the second half, and we won the game. And I knew we were going to. As soon as I put that jersey on, I knew we were going to. I wore the Brian Branch jersey yesterday. First half, everything went smoothly. Halftime, I went to go, heat up some food, make some food. I put a robe on over the jersey to go into the kitchen and stuff to make the food. I come back. Second half just started. Still have the robe on. Everything was going awful. I'm like, what is happening? Then I realized, oh my God, I'm still wearing this robe. Took it off. We immediately went down to score. I'm into sports superstition. I believe in that so hardcore. The robe was blocking the jersey. And, I had to take that shit off. We came back and we made it a game again. Very thrilling second half is what I can say, And I'm a fan of, the blowouts are nice, especially when we blew out Dallas, blew out Tennessee, blew out Jacksonville. I love the blowouts, but man, I love a close divisional game. Don't get me wrong. If the game script was Detroit was just going to absolutely manhandle, emasculate Green Bay, I would have accepted that. I would have loved that. But with how this team is, with how the NFC North in general is, I am glad that we got Green Bay's hopes so high up there just for at the very end to send them crashing down. I love that. I'll be talking about the fan response. But man, going on social media today and just seeing the Green Bay fan base absolutely lose their minds. It is kismet. It is so sweet. I can't wait to talk about that because there's a couple points I want to talk about that with. Just to kind of set the record straight on Detroit and their fans. I'm going to defend us. I'm going to back us up a bit. But anyways, going on with the recap of the game. Other than Tim Patrick, other than obviously Jake Bates, the main other player of the game, and it's not even player, it's players in general, I got to give it up to the defense. The reality is, who needs the 13 defensive players on IR? I'm just kidding. We need them back. But super impressive showcase yesterday by the defense, by practice squad players, almost essentially, by guys that we literally just signed this week. The injury bug struck again pretty early on. My heart just dropped. Luckily, it's just minor concussion, but Aleem McNeil ruled out with a head injury. Head injury typically indicates a concussion. Seemed like he went back on the sidelines before the first half ended. Everybody was like, okay, cool. Aleem McNeil's back. But then second half started, and they're like, okay, Aleem's out for the rest of the game. And it's like, well, great. But what Aaron Glenn has been doing with the defense, it's unreal. Listening to other Detroit radio, and you hear the same thing every time a major injury has happened. You heard it with Aiden Hutchinson. You heard it with Anzalone. You heard it with Marcus Davenport. I forgot Davenport was on the team until I saw earlier today. It's kind of the same doom and gloom talk. Not so much like, oh, the season's over, but it's like the defense is going to have a hard time. And, the game did end 34-31. But 14 of those points you can't really put on the defense whatsoever. The offense didn't really do much of a favor. Goff with that terrible interception that he had right in our own side of the field. That led to a quick score with Green Bay. And then the one fourth down conversion we didn't get, the 4th and 3 on the 30, that didn't convert. That led to another pretty quick score for Green Bay. You can't really expect the defense to quickly, turn around, stop them. I mean, they could, but let's be realistic here. If you're going to turn the ball over like that pretty easily, the momentum quickly shifts to the offense. And that's just what happened. I mean, you take those two things away, I fully believe this game would have ended 34-17. I don't believe that Green Bay would have came down and scored those 2 touchdowns that they did had those things not happened. And even then, we could have potentially scored more points off of those things. If Goff didn't throw that interception, who knows? We could have gone down and at least gotten 3 points. And the same things with the 4th and 3. We could have gotten down, got more points. So the game finished 34-31. I don't believe the defense is on the hook for 14 of those points. They played absolutely phenomenal. Pat O'Connor, I don't know who this Irish dude is. I'm assuming he's Irish. I don't know who this dude is. But the way that he stepped up for Aleem McNeil, and this dude was hype. I remember in the 4th quarter, I believe it was Green Bay's final drive. And you can just see him just like trying to get the fans amped up. Like he knew he was on fire. He knew he was on a roll. And again, who is this guy? Zadarius Smith, very first play of the game, sack. Jamal Adams had an impact on that as well. He didn't play a lot of snaps last night. Makes sense, though. He hasn't really played this year at all, so he's going to take some time to adjust. But even then, immediate impact almost, because he was right there with Zadarius on that sack on Jordan Love. Miles Adams, Quan Alexander, Jonah Williams, other guys that we had signed within the last week, just coming in and making an impact wherever they can, like especially Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander started the game, and he just joined the team like 3 days ago. And he's already here making an impact. Absolutely just phenomenal showcase from those new players. As soon as time goes on in the season, they're going to get well adjusted, and then they're going to make perfect rotational pieces once we get other players back in rotation. The one player I really, really want to give a shout out to, again, I don't even know who this dude is. I don't know where he came from. I don't know if he was just a free agent or if we just got him off another practice squad. Ezekiel Turner. That 3rd down stop of Jordan Love at the very end. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Because that could have been very dangerous. The only thing stopping Jordan Love and getting a first down or perhaps even more, And not, well, I take that back. It's not even a first down; it's a touchdown. It was third and goal at that point. They were just backed up on their own 16. There was nothing in front of Jordan Love other than Ezekiel Turner. Ezekiel Turner, he's a big guy. Jordan Love, he's pretty nimble. Ezekiel Turner took that man down. He just took him down. Kept Green Bay to a field goal, which led us to do what we did at the end there, just Green Bay to tie it up. Shout out to Ezekiel Turner again. I don't know where this guy came from, but he made absolutely the most critical defensive play of the entire game. Because again, I fully believe, and I went back and watched, I think Jordan Love would have found the end zone. I really do believe that. So shout out Ezekiel Turner. Shout out David Long as well. He's like one of the only ones who I knew came from Miami earlier in the year. He was a captain, but really had a down year in Miami, cut him loose. But he had that critical fumble recovery when Christian Watson was in midair, dropped the ball. David Long scooped that thing right up. Shout out to him. And then another player I really, really want to give a shout out to, Al-Qadim Muhammad. Again, I don't know where this guy came from, but he is a hidden gem. He has been stepping up. He basically has taken the Aiden Hutchinson role opposite Zadarius Smith. Dude is on fire. He was on fire in the Thanksgiving game. He was on fire last night. Again, no idea where this dude came from. But the way that these guys have been playing, it's crazy. Comerica Park is neighbored right next to Ford Field for obviously those who know downtown Detroit. We all know how the Detroit Tigers season went, where they were done and out, and then all of a sudden these guys came up out of nowhere. Tigers made the playoffs and off of literal janitors, minor league players that had no business being in the major leagues doing what they were doing. This is very reminiscent of that. And I think it's funny because, it's like, oh, the neighbors are rubbing off on each other. Because the reality is, like I said last week, I thought this game was going to be a loss. I believed we could have won, which we ended up doing, but I thought it was going to be a loss. The defensive injuries are just too much. We still have 13 defensive players on IR. 3 critical players on the defensive line were out. Like last night I tweeted, I'm like, what did the defensive line do to God to piss him off so much that these guys are dropping like flies? That's a joke. But like when Lee McNeil dropped, I'm like, how much more can this defensive line take? It was just unreal just how these literal almost nobodies came in and became somebody, because Aaron Glenn is doing a phenomenal job coaching these players up, and they are playing their ass and their heart out on the field. And it was so clear last night. Shout out to everybody. There's not one player that did anything wrong. Carlton Davis, I lied. That one drive that Green Bay scored like immediately, he was pretty bad that drive. But other than that, defense did their job, man. They did their job. They were on fire. The safety bros, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, they were just lighting the field up. Oh my God, nothing was better though than Trevor Nawasaki just lighting up Tucker Kraft. I like last night, I think solidified my dislike of Tucker Kraft. But when Nawasaki, I can't say his name right ever. When Nawasaki lit him up, oh my God, I just stood up and I was clapping my hands with that. I can't stand Tucker Kraft. He's so smug. I think, I don't know when it happened. I think it was sometime this past week. Tucker Kraft was like, oh, I can't wait to get my hands on Kirby Joseph. I think it was Kirby Joseph that he said that about. I always said it to me like, oh, like he's wanting to, hurt Kirby. And Kirby didn't take that lightly. Kirby lit him up, which, Tucker tried to do his cool little, oh, look at me, I'm 260 pounds doing this cool little karate move to get back up. Whatever, you suck. And then after the game, I don't know who got the footage because it had the Prime timestamp on it, and so I don't know if it was like actual like Amazon Prime footage. But after the game, you see Tucker Kraft walking because the players come in and out the same tunnel. You see Tucker Kraft going back to the visitor locker room, and you just see Kirby Joseph right there. And I think you even had guards like kind of telling Kirby like, okay, you got to chill out a bit. Kirby was talking so much shit to Tucker Kraft, and you could just see that sad sack's face. It's the greatest video I think I've seen from last night. I hate Tucker Kraft. Whatever. Point is, defense did a phenomenal job. Can't speak to them enough. And I'm still on cloud nine. I mean, like I said, it was a game I thought we were gonna lose. But anyways, we're gonna take a very quick break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the return of Dan Gamble. I'm so glad this man is back. Like it, hate it, it doesn't matter. That man is here. He is here to stay. You are currently watching Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, guys, welcome back to Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are going right back into Detroit Lions talk. Again, they won last night's Thursday night football matchup against the team in Wisconsin with a final score of 34-31. And last night we saw the return of Dan Gamble. Now, for those that watched the game, as you can see, we went 4 for 5 on fourth down, including the very, very critical one at the end there that set up the game winning and clock draining field goal from Jake Bates. Now, the talk around the national media this week, or not this week, today has been revolving around that 4th and inches call, but even just the idea of the fourth down conversions just in general. From what I've been paying attention to in between work and stuff, people are still not a fan of it. You have some big national media heads like, oh, one day this is going to come back and bite the Lions in the ass. Like it already has. The NFC Championship game already came and went, whatever. But that's what people outside of the city don't understand. Put it in perspective. 2 of the touchdowns that Detroit had yesterday came on fourth down. Now, people want to be like, oh, the analytics. Like, screw what the analytics say. That's why Detroit's playing the way that they're playing right now. If you do what the analytics say on those 4th and goals, you get 2 field goals, 6 points, and this game's probably still different. Assuming everything else happened the exact same way that it was, the interception, the failed 4th down conversion that led to the 2 Green Bay touchdowns, we would have lost this game easily. Would have easily lost it. And then with one of the other 4th down conversions earlier on, which I believe still led to a score. Like, what are we talking about here? I know last year we did all the 4th down stuff because we didn't really have a kicker. We had nobody we could trust. And even last night, like we were saying, like we have Jake Bates. We know what he can do. Like, why aren't we using him? And it did come out after the game that apparently all week, and I believe it was Amon-Ra St. Brown that said it, that Campbell let the team know, hey, we will be doing this 4th down stuff this week. So the players were already on board. No, it was Jared Goff, I think, that said that. But the point is, everybody was already on board with knowing that, okay, we're going to be doing this 4th down thing a lot. And again, yeah, 4 for 5. The 4th and 3 didn't happen. That led to Green Bay scoring, whatever. And this is what I need, especially Detroit fans in general, because at the end of the day, I don't care what the national media says. I don't care what other sports teams fans say. You can't live by the sword and die by the sword. And it's funny because I said that right before I believe Al Michaels said it. I was telling my fiance, like, oh, you live and die by the sword. And I texted a friend that too, because he texted me the same thing. Like, it's like, God, this is gonna bite us one day. And it's like, listen, for the times that it works, you can't be happy about it and then be pissed at the moon when it doesn't. Like, we know this is who Dan Campbell is. And love him, hate him for it, like, it's worked for the most part. Like, yeah, the one time that it didn't was the NFC Championship game, and you can't even blame it on that. There was so much that happened in that game that prevented us from going to the Super Bowl that year. It wasn't just because, oh, Dan Campbell didn't go for the free 3 points. First of all, there's no such thing as free 3 points. I happen to be at the game where Jake Bates missed his only field goal so far this season. Like, nothing is automatic. Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens is done. His career's dead. Like, nothing is automatic anymore. You have kickers missing extra point tries. Like, and Dan Campbell said at the post-game conference too, he wanted it to end on offense. And that's exactly what happened. The 4th and inches play, I want to go into that a bit because let me tell you, that was the quickest heart attack to elation that I think I've ever had in my life. So when the ball got snapped, you instantly see Jared Goff like go to the ground. Like, oh my God, like this is about to be either a fumble or we just didn't get it. He somehow made the handoff to David Montgomery. And mind you, we only needed mere inches. It wasn't a yard. It wasn't 4th and 2. Like, we just needed a couple inches. David Montgomery went for 7 damn yards. The game was over, so to speak, because Jake Bates still had to make the kick. But that was it, because here's the thing. Sure, you could have called your timeout, 4th and inches, kick the field goal, take the lead, woohoo. There would have been 50 seconds left on that clock. We've seen so many times the Lions lose these type of games. And not even just the Lions. God, this past week was terrible. Quick side note before I keep going on to my point. Seeing all these NFL pages bring up the what they call the Motown Miracle with the Rodgers to Rodgers Hail Mary, I want to just peel the eyes out of my head every time I see that come up. But point being, there's been a lot of trauma in that stadium with stuff like that happening where we think, oh, the game's won, we did our part, we got the field goal, game's over, just to have something terrible happen. I mean, for those that watch football avidly, you saw that happen earlier this season with Chicago and Washington. Well, Chicago many times, let's be real. But the Chicago-Washington game, Chicago was already celebrating. I remember being at work that day. I live in the Chicago area. I work out in Oak Brook, Illinois, for those that know where that is. But I work right in the shoe department. We have 3 TVs set up. So obviously the Bears game is going to be on all 3 of those TVs on Sundays. Huge crowd of people surrounded. We're like, oh my God, the Bears are about to upset the Washington Commanders. I don't know if at that point if it was an upset or if they were still winning their games. Point is, oh my God, the Bears are about to beat the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels throws that Hail Mary, tip backwards. Noah Brown caught it. And seeing the faces of those Chicago fans, truly hilarious. But the point is, you can't leave anything up to chance. Because here's the reality, too. The defense, while I praise them so much for what they've done with who they have, you can tell these guys are tired. They are exhausted, especially coming from the rough couple weeks that they've been on. They had the Indianapolis game on a Sunday. Then you had the Thanksgiving game, 3-4 days later. And typically, for those that play on Thursday, you get the next 10 days off. But no, Detroit and Green Bay, they had to play in 7 days as opposed to having the typical 10 days off. Now, they now have the 10 days off. But you could tell yesterday that the defensive guys were tired. A lot of them had to pick up the slack because of the injuries that came up. Again, you have new guys in the system trying to still learn everything. So the guys that have been in the system, like Jack Campbell and a lot of the secondary players, they had to pick up a lot of the slack. So you could tell they were tired. 40 seconds is enough time for Jordan Love to do something. At the very least, resend it back into overtime or send it into overtime. Because you saw what happened at the beginning of the second half. It took them 1:40 to score. Now, yeah, they would have only had like 45 seconds to do that. But it's football. Anything crazy can happen. Chicago lost on a blocked field goal. So anything can happen. And all the credit in the world to Dan Campbell for not allowing Green Bay to get back onto the field. Now, yes, guaranteed we didn't pick up that fourth down conversion. At that point, all Jordan Love had to do was just get into field goal range, and then they could win it off a field goal. Oh, my God, the city would have lit Allen Park on fire this morning if that would have happened. And, and Dan Campbell has embraced that. Again, that's why Al Michaels said, that's why I said, that's why I've heard a lot of other people say, you live and die by the sword with him. It's great to praise him when he does it, but you can't be here mad when it doesn't work. And admittedly, I was mad when the 4th and 3 didn't work. Now, I didn't mind the decision to do the 4th and 3. I minded the play call. I thought the play call was absolutely terrible for that 4th and 3 situation. But I didn't mind them doing it. I didn't mind them doing it because sure enough, after the game, again, is when he said, we wanted the ball in our offense's hands as much time as possible. And, that was reflective of everything. Detroit won the time of possession yesterday with 36 minutes. Compared to 24 from Green Bay. So Dan Campbell's back. I believe this might be just a rare reappearance again. We have a kicker we can definitely rely and depend on. I just think the game script yesterday called for it because now the defensive guys can take a break. They have a 10-day break to rest up. Some of these injured guys like Onwuzurike, Pascal, Reeder, they got 10 days to come back for the Buffalo game. But Campbell, he knew that the offense was healthy. Thank God for the most part, outside of, Taylor Decker, the offense has remained healthy. So he wanted to leave it in those boys' hands, and it worked. Now, I want to shift on to just it's a sweet time to be a Lions fan, man. It is it is a great time. Seeing the collective Green Bay fan base meltdown, it's been so sweet to see. Lions fans, they know this, and for as long as I've known how these games have gone in the past, seeing Green Bay fans, of all people, be complaining about the officiating, I was like the Joker. I had a big-ass smile on my face about that. Oh my God, they were complaining so much about the officiating. It was unreal. And mind you, did Detroit get away with some stuff? Yes, we definitely did. Because there was some stuff that I saw that I'm like, oh my God, we're about to get flagged for a personal foul. And the refs never did it. And I'm like, huh? Like, it's just so strange to see. And mind you, like, I think it's strange for the Green Bay fans to see that too, because we all know Green Bay's history with us and officiating, the ghost face mask, the hands to the face twice. So we know what it's like to be screwed over by the refs, even outside of just games against Green Bay. We get screwed by the left and right all the time. And I just don't think the Green Bay fans were prepared for that. I don't think they were prepared for the refs to, I don't want to say be on the Lions side, but like that, I mean, that's definitely how it looked. Because again, I know that Detroit got away with some stuff yesterday. They definitely did. But I also thought Green Bay did too. So I don't know what they're complaining about. but it's so kismet just to see that. It's finally like, oh, how the turntables, like just so great to see Green Bay fans for once know what it's like to be us, because we have been on the opposite end of that far too many times. And it's nice to remind Green Bay fans of that too, because then they don't say anything back, because they know deep down, yeah, like, because they like to say what they would tell us Lions fans is like, oh, well, your team shouldn't have been in a position for a refereeing call to make that much of a difference. Like, and that's what we were telling them, and they couldn't handle it. Like, oh, well, your team shouldn't have been in a position for that to matter as much. Like, it's so great. But I'm done picking on the Green Bay fans. It's fun and all, but I'm not picking on them. Minnesota fans, I can't wait for Week 18. But just speaking for us as Lions fans, it's incredible what we are continuing to see from this team. 12-1, 11 straight wins, and God, I only wish that we could have scored one more time in that Tampa game where we could have been 13-0 right now. And I know that's not the point, but it's just phenomenal to see what's happening right now. Just to see this fan base just having a good time, and majority of other NFL fans even enjoying it for us, outside of our division rivals. Like, I posted a TikTok video last night that blew up. I'm just going to hype myself up a bit. It blew up a bit on TikTok. But you see, like, other NFL fans like, hey, Atlanta fan here, or hey, Seattle fan here, or hey, we're playing you next Sunday, but Buffalo fan here. Like, just being happy for us. And it's known across the NFL just how much us Detroit fans have suffered. And I'm only speaking as a 27-year-old that's only been a Lions fan since, unfortunately, the 0-16 season. That's been the extent of my fandom for this team. But I've known people that have suffered for way longer. And just to finally be able to enjoy this moment. And we get it. Job's not done. Like, yeah, it's cool to be setting franchise record after franchise record with how this team is performing, but the job's not finished. Super Bowl is the goal. Don't get me wrong. And after what I saw last night, Super Bowl's gonna happen. I'm gonna proclaim it right now, barring anything happen to who I think are the two most important people left on this team, Jared Goff and Penei Sewell. We are winning the Super Bowl. I don't care. I'm putting it out there right now. Last night proved to me that you can throw one of my high school teachers out there on the defensive line, and we're still going to win this game. Guarantee it. What we are doing, what this team is, I like saying we, but what the team is doing, again, it is unreal. And they live and breathe for this city. They know how much we have been waiting for a winner, and it's happening. It's happening right before our eyes. And it is the most beautiful thing to see. Detroit fans, I love you. We deserve this more than any other fan base out there. Nobody's going to ever convince me differently. We are deserving of this. And man, wouldn't it be so great to see an NFC championship game at Ford Field? And that's what I want to talk about last with the Lions tonight. Do we have the number one seed locked up? Now, last night's game was super important to making that happen. I think ESPN said if we won the game last night, if you look at the analytics, the win last night, basically, the Lions have an 80% chance of now locking up the number one seed. And that is super important to have for two reasons. First of which, we need that bye week so desperately bad. Now, we have like a mini bye. We have, now it's now 9 days more until the next Lions game. We desperately need that time off more than any other team. Again, we have 13 defensive players on IR. I think we have 5 offensive players on IR, so a total of like 18 players on IR. And I don't think any other team has more than like 12. We desperately need this time off. I know that there are some people on IR that can come back. I know Alex Anzalone is due back at the end of the season, right before playoffs, I believe. Khalif Raymond, I believe, is expected to be back also. I saw a report today that if the Lions make the Super Bowl, Aiden Hutchinson could suit up for that game. That would be the craziest. In a season full of craziness, that might top the cake. we all saw the injury to Hutch in the Dallas game, and if he's able to come back for the Super Bowl, oh my God, that would be just incredible. But again, for the number 1 seed's sake, we need that more than we need home field advantage. We need it just so we have that extra week to prepare and get guys healthy and ready to go. Because once playoff time comes, it is game time. I mean, obviously, but we need that bye week so desperately. And then the second point, it's like what I just said. It would be nice to have home field advantage. We saw what the playoff atmosphere was like last year with the 2 games we had there against the Rams and the Bucks. I can't imagine having an NFC Championship game at Ford Field. We thought that the Bucks game was loud. We thought that the Rams game was loud. I can't imagine being up against the Philadelphia or Minnesota at Ford Field, and they're the only team separating us from going to the Super Bowl. I can't imagine what type of hell the fans are going to bring to that opposing team, because I would be scared as a player to go in there. If they know, like, we got to go to Detroit for the NFC Championship game, I would be terrified. So it is super important that we lock the number 1 seed up. And there's only 2 teams out there that are in the way. 2 teams. One of you, some of you might be thinking, I thought only Philadelphia would be. Philadelphia is definitely one of them. The other one still is, unfortunately, and I don't even know how, Minnesota. Minnesota is a team that just won't go the F away for whatever reason. I don't think they are as good as the record indicates, but they just keep getting away with it. They're the NFC version of Kansas City. They just keep getting away with it. Let's look at the remaining schedules. For Detroit, we have Buffalo next Sunday. Then we play at Chicago. We play at the Niners. And then we close out with the home game against Minnesota. The Bills game, I've been telling people this. If some people aren't ready to come back defensively, don't force them back for the Bills game. The Bills game has... This is why the win last night was so important. The Bills game does not matter. The Bills are an AFC team. They have nothing to do with the NFC playoff picture. We're 1 game ahead of Philadelphia as far as the record indicates, but Philadelphia has 2 NFC losses. I believe they lost to Atlanta, and I believe they lost to Tampa Bay also. So even if we lose to the Bills, we still have the tiebreaker over Philadelphia because we have the better conference record. So we could both finish the season, 15-2. Doesn't matter. We get the number 1 seed because we have the better conference record. So the Bills game, if players aren't ready to come back for that, don't rush them whatsoever. It is fine if we lose against the Bills. I'm not going to lose. I'm not wearing my Branch jersey for the Bills game. I'm not going to ruin the luck. I'm going to wear the classic Barry Sanders one. Because the Bills game, I truly don't care about. Would I love to win? Of course. I mean, I'm not saying I don't care to win. I want to win that game. Don't get me wrong. And last night proved to me that they can do it. And I know that Buffalo is on a different level than Green Bay, but hell, we can beat anybody. That's what last night proved to me. It's like what Dan Campbell said on Hard Knocks. I don't care if you have 3 toes and 1 ass cheek, I will beat your ass or something like that. But again, if DJ Reader's not ready to come back, if Onwuzurike is not ready to come back, Pascal, don't rush them. Just throw the same guys out there for Buffalo, and whatever happens, happens. No sweat off my back. Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a semi-favorable schedule, unfortunately. 5 games left on their schedule and only 1 away game, I believe. Sunday, they play at home against Carolina. Then on the same day that we play against Buffalo, at the same time, they'll be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you have the game. Then they play the following week at Washington. Then they close out with Dallas and the Giants. Very favorable schedule for them outside of Pittsburgh, and I would like to believe Washington. I'm hoping now for them an AFC win, which the only AFC team they have left on their schedule is Pittsburgh. That will affect them because their overall record will go down. So, very crucial that Pittsburgh wins that game. I also believe that Washington can upset them. They're going to be playing at Washington. I know some Philly fans can travel well, so I don't know. And Carolina, Carolina on Sunday, they've turned it around a little bit. Now, obviously, they're still bottom of the barrel team, but defensively, they've got something going on. And they're going to have their biggest test yet against this Philadelphia offense. But who knows? Maybe Carolina can do something miraculous, help Detroit out even further. Dallas and the Giants, just give the Eagles the win already. And then lastly, we have the frauds of the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings. They play Sunday against Atlanta. Then they play against the Bears. They play at Seattle after that. And then finish up with divisional matchups against Green Bay and then at Detroit. The Vikings are going to lose at least 2 more of these games. At least 2. I could very much see them crapping the bed against Atlanta. The Bears, divisional matchup, I'm not going to put it. The Bears almost came back and upset them. At Seattle, I think, looking at the remaining Viking schedule, they could literally drop the next 5. I'm not even playing. I know Atlanta's a bit of a dumpster fire right now, but I fully believe that Atlanta could go into Minnesota and beat them. The divisional games are obviously toss-ups. I think the Bears could win. I think Green Bay could beat them. I know we'll definitely beat them. We'll shut that shit up at the end of the season if it's still a problem. And then the game at Seattle. Seattle, historically, hard place to play. 12th man. Seattle could very much beat them. I wouldn't be surprised if Vikings drop the next 5. They've won some games that I think they should have lost. So I wouldn't be surprised if the tables finally swing a little bit differently and they're going to lose some of these games. I'm not too worried about Minnesota. I'm only mentioning them because, for argument's sake, they're a game and a half behind us in the NFC North battle right now. If they lose against the Bears, it's basically over. The Lions should have the North wrapped up. But yeah, I'm only mentioning them once again. I think they're currently 10-2. They still have their game left on Sunday to be played, but they're still unfortunately there. Green Bay, as far as the NFC North race is concerned, unless terrible things happen, I think they're out of it. Doesn't matter. But yeah, it's critical that we just get the number 1 seed locked up, bring these guys back, get them recharged, get them ready to go. I'm not too concerned about momentum being lost because of a bye week, because you saw what happened with the bye week earlier this year. We had a week 5 bye, and then we went to Dallas and just beat the living crap out of them. So I'm not too concerned about, week off is too detrimental to momentum. Not with this team. Not an issue whatsoever. But yeah, super, super ecstatic about what happened last night with the game. That win was just so beyond critical. It makes me feel better. If we lose to Buffalo, like I said, if these guys aren't ready to come back, they don't got to come back. They do not have to come back. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, we need Reader, like how I was saying we needed him yesterday, and turned out everything was fine. But if he needs more time, give him basically the next, I think it's going to be 16 days off now. Just give him that time. Give him that time. Give Enrique that time. Pascal. Just let guys get healthy. Historically in the NFL, December is always the toughest time to play in, especially if you're a team that has had an early season bye week. Like Detroit did. They had a week 5 bye. So they desperately need the time off. I'm glad that we got the win. Get the next 10 days off before it's on to Buffalo. But real quick, we are going to take another quick break before we finish off with the Detroit Red Wings and the Michigan Wolverines just in general. Once again, you have been watching Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
All right, guys. Welcome back to Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Not going to take up much more of your time tonight. Just wanted to do like a quick couple minutes. Once again, talking about the dead things known as the Red Wings. It's over. Let's just put it that way. It's time to blow it up. The Red Wings are currently 10, 12, and 4, riding a 4-game losing streak. Second, tied for second to last record in the Eastern Conference, only 1 point ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. Blow it up. I really don't know what we're waiting for. Now I get like, oh, what's firing Derek Lalonde gonna do mid-season? What's firing Steve Yzerman going to do mid-season? It doesn't matter. The ride's over. I mean, I'm truly done with this Yzerman thing. I really don't know who had the gun to Patrick Kane's head to convince him to re-sign here for one more year. Dude doesn't have a lot of hockey left in him, and he chose to come back here. Like, I get like last season was cute. We almost made the playoffs, but he's wasting his time here. Since I know that Steve isn't going to get fired, I'm hoping that at least Steve can trade Patrick Kane for something. before the trade deadline because it's not happening this year, guys. It's truly not. I don't know how this team got worse than last year. And like I know like last season it came down to literally the last 2 minutes of the regular season that kept us out the playoffs, but it's like the team wasn't that good to begin with. They had their own Detroit Tigers spell of magic where they were winning games nonstop, and they lost so many games, and then they clawed their way back just to have their hearts ripped out with a minute left of the regular season. Like, doesn't matter anymore. I'm only talking about the Red Wings because I feel like I'm obligated to, but it's the same thing every time. It's over. It's over. Let's just blow it up. I know that firing Derek alone won't do anything, but hell, look at all these other teams firing their head coaches. It's not going to do anything for them, but they still did it. My main issue with Alone is I truly do believe that it is a locker room issue. I don't believe he has the attention of the team. There's clearly nothing inspiring going on. It's just time to blow it up. I'm going to say that till my face turns red itself. My hair is red. I don't know if I've ever shown my hair on the show yet because I've always worn a beanie, but my hair is red. It's going to my face is going to be as red as my hair. It's just time to blow it up. This thing is done. Nice season, put up the thank you fans that they put at the end of every season. It's over. And I'll say this to you guys week in and week out. I'll give you the daily "it's over" update for the Red Wings. And that was this week's. But it's over for the Red Wings. Let's end up with something a little bit more positive. I do want to talk about the Michigan Wolverines a bit. I know last week I went on a little bit of a bender saying, this OSU game doesn't matter. If, we won the offseason, we got Bryce Underwood. But, man, was it so sweet to beat Ohio State. Just a tremendous way to end the season. You forget the fact that this team is 7-5. They're going to go to whatever the hell the name is of the bowl game at Ford Field. Probably not. They're going to go to some other bowl game that nobody cares about, nobody will ever watch. It doesn't matter. We beat Ohio State. As far as I'm concerned, we won the national championship 2 years in a row. Well, let's hold on. Make it 4 years in a row, since that's 4 years in a row of beating Ohio State. It was just so sweet, man. That was a game we had no business in winning. And for me personally, I didn't care so much about winning that game for what it did for Michigan as opposed to what it did to Ohio State. I think Ryan Day is done as the Ohio State head coach. I just think Board of Regents, whoever, just waiting for Ohio State to get bounced in the playoff, whoever they're going to be against, before they cut loose. Speaking personally as a U of M fan, I would love for Ohio State to keep Ryan Day, because I could do this year in and year out. Just a super exciting that we won, but that game was terrible. Terrible game. And Ohio State should be ashamed of themselves for losing to a quarterback that only threw for 62 yards and gave you what was probably the easiest interception you're ever going to get in your life. The Gus Johnson call on that was hilarious, I will say. Gus Johnson's just a hilarious announcer. I love him. But no, just a phenomenal way to end a 7-5 season, which is just a stark contrast from how the season started. The start of the season all the way to mid-season was just very doom and gloom. Like, oh my God, is Sharon Moore the guy? We can't score. Why didn't we get a quarterback in the transfer portal? Blah, blah, blah. And then now it's, okay, we got the number one recruit in the country coming next year. Oh, and guess what? You beat your biggest rival anyway with this god-awful team. In a game that Will Johnson didn't play in, a game that Colston Loveland didn't play in, and I know some other guys didn't play. Shout out, Mason and Grant, just lights out players. I don't know what Ohio State was thinking, that they were going to run the ball against us. They didn't really want to let Will Howard throw the ball, because whenever he did, disaster almost ensued every time. Whatever, it was hilarious. Again, hats off to the Michigan Wolverines. 7-5 record doesn't matter. You still got the Natty last year. You beat Ohio State this year, and you have so much to look forward to next year. So, hats off to the Michigan Wolverines football team. Just want to quickly finish off with the hoops team. Now, I got a lot of catching up to do with Michigan basketball. I kind of was turned off by the Juwan Howard era. We'll always appreciate Juwan Howard, the player, but as a coach, I couldn't be bothered to care about Michigan basketball. But they're off to a promising start this year. They won the the Fort Myers Invitational. I don't know what the hell it is. They beat a ranked team, I believe, in Dayton. I believe Dayton was ranked for that. This past week, they upset Wisconsin. I believe Wisconsin was ranked number 16 or something. The game started off terrible. It was like, okay, yeah, Michigan's playing a real opponent. They're getting their ass whooped. But then the Alien Brothers and Danny Wolf, Vlad Golan, took over the second half, completed the upset. Again, admittedly, I got to tune in more to Michigan basketball. Great job by Dusty May of getting off to a phenomenal start this year. I know they play Iowa tomorrow. It'd be great to get another Big Ten win under the belt. The way that they've been playing, they can stop with the turnovers. This is a team that will be there in March for the tournament. Super excited to see how the rest of the season plays out for the Michigan Wolverines. In basketball, it's about time that we got some good basketball up in Ann Arbor. Chrysler Center has definitely been needing it. But yeah, that is today's show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. What can I say? Just absolutely phenomenal for what happened yesterday in Thursday Night Football. Your Detroit Lions are 12-1. That is just bonkers to think about, especially in a game that, again, I've said it left and right. I don't know however many times. I did not expect us to win that game, but it happened. It happened, and I'm super glad that it did. We'll see what happens against Buffalo. Again, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If we lose. Has no bearing to what I believe is going to be the battle to the very end for the number 1 seed. We just got to pray for some teams to finally get a hold of Philadelphia and just to knock Minnesota out of its misery. Again, Minnesota's not going to do anything. Minnesota fans like to talk about, we're right there behind you guys. Like, listen, the last time you guys won the division, you lost in the wild card to the New York Giants with Daniel Jones as their quarterback. I don't want to hear anything from you guys about, we're right there, because guess what? You're not. Sam Darnold is still your quarterback. Don't get it twisted. Wait till you come to Detroit and we put a belt to ass on you guys. That's all I'm going to say. Philadelphia, we just got to finish them off. Again, Dan Gamble's back. Super excited about the return of Dan Gamble. And again, if you haven't given your appreciation yet, however way you want to, show your appreciation for the defensive players of the Detroit Lions. Just absolutely phenomenal with how they played against Green Bay yesterday. Probably going to be the same guys again against Buffalo. Maybe we'll get some guys back, but there's no need to rush back. Again, I'll be back next week with your weekly update about the Dead Wings. And we'll see how Michigan basketball is looking. Didn't want to talk about the Pistons tonight. It's been a bad week. Didn't want to have too much of a dour note after talking so positively about the Lions and the Wolverines. But we'll be back again next Wednesday. Again, was off this past Wednesday because of some internet issues, but still wanted to make sure I got the show in this week. Once again, you have been watching Gritsville USA right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Make sure to follow us on X, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You could also follow me here at Gritsville_IESR. You'll find me there on Twitter, X, again, whatever you call it. And we're going to be wherever you find your podcast as well, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Spotify. We'll be there. Once again, my name is Christian Harvey. Thank you guys so much. Love y'all. See you guys next week.